last checkup, your doctor measured your blood pressure, your weight, probably your cholesterol, triglycerides. Did anyone measure how strong you are? No! Here's the thing that's been bugging me all week. How much muscle you carry predicts how long you'll live and how well you'll live, better than half the numbers they do right down in your My Chart wah-da-doo-dah. We've known it for years, and it shows up on the standard physical exactly, carry the 9, never. I'm Pete Wright with trainer Srdjan Injac, and this is Build for Health, and today we get into why the thing that may matter most for your long-term health is the one thing nobody in that exam room is looking at, and why that might not be entirely your doctor's fault. Okay. Was it a mistake to give you this topic today, Srdjan?
Maybe a little bit. No.
You're coming in breathing fire, I think, for some reason. So what we want to talk about, the big idea is that your doctor, whatever your relationship is with your doctor, your clinic, they're not a villain in the story, right? That the systems are what they are. And so today I wanted to talk about the stuff your doctors aren't talking to you about. Maybe it's not the stuff specifically that your doctor doesn't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I know that you in particular have a special relationship with traditional sort of Western medicine and you've got some things you want to get off your chest. So I thought maybe we could have that conversation. Do you think we could do that?
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that I just need to get off my chest. A lot of things that...
Okay. Well, foundationally, before I open the floor for your filibuster, foundationally, I just want to say this, that as far as my research went this morning, doctors get approximately like 19 hours of nutrition in 4 years of med school, right? Now, I know you have trained doctors as clients too,
Yes.
right? You have physicians as clients.
Yes.
This is a story not so much as of that your experience is that you know more than them, but really, what does it look like when it looks like smart people come in that their curriculum has maybe failed?
Well, when the first time when it happened, I was shocked. I just thought for some reason, you go through the medical school, all these years that you spent studying, about health, that you don't really have any classes about nutrition. Like, they had no idea. The first doctor I remember, very first time when I was training, he was an ICU doctor and overweight, wanted to lose some weight, all that stuff. And I, for some reason, didn't even think about to talk to him really much about nutrition, thinking he knows, right? And then first time he comes in and he just started, looking like he was about to faint, like puke, like nauseous and all that stuff. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, did you eat anything and all that stuff? And this was like around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And he told me that he had like pizza for breakfast, that he hadn't anything like in the last 3-4 hours, no food in his system. And so I was like looking at him, I'm like, don't you know a little bit more about nutrition and all that stuff? And he was like, so what am I supposed to eat? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know?
Yeah.
Like, I was just taken back by that, because I didn't think that, as a doctor, I was thinking he knows more. And then he did tell me, he admitted, he was like, we don't. He was like, I don't know. He was like, when it comes to nutrition, you probably do know a lot more than I do. And he admits that, during the medical school, they didn't really have a nutrition class. They don't really spend that much time. It's just pretty much about prescriptions and how to, treat the diseases and the symptoms and stuff like that, but not really how to prevent them, the nutrition, the lifestyle, exercising, none of that stuff. And even that nutrition that you saw that says 19 hours or less, it's kind of a it's like a disease nutrition where pretty much it's not really about the lifestyle nutrition. It's, related to the diseases. Like if you're at the hospital and you have something that they give you medication and tell you, okay, you can't eat this or that.
Yeah.
That
right.
kind of stuff. That kind of nutrition things like that. That's related.
Don't
to,
drink orange juice after you take your morning medication.
Yeah, whatever they give you. That's that kind of nutrition. Not really what's healthy, what you should be eating for breakfast, lunch, and all that stuff. And he said, it's just I never had those classes. He was like, I don't know. And he admits that he thinks that system is kind of rigged. It's not. They need to change that, definitely. He was like, I wish I would have studied more about nutrition and I knew more about the nutrition, but I don't. So then I realized that they really don't know. And one of the doctors that I had, she knew, and she told me the only reason why she knew is because she took the class on her own. It wasn't required that she went out of her way, took a class in nutrition because she wanted to learn more about the nutrition because it wasn't enough.
Do you? I know it is absolutely shocking, and when you work with docs who come in, like, do you find they? I mean, obviously, if by the time they self-select and come in to see you, they're clearly not resistant to strength training, right? They want to come in, they for some reason or another, but it seems like they arrive at it maybe the same way I arrived at it. Right? Mm-hmm. Where it just felt like it was getting to be too late and that I was noticing myself decline kind of prematurely. And what the hell am I going to do about it? And not from the perspective of I have a background in rebuilding people and I'm not going to let this happen to me.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, they were really nice about it. Like they took all of my suggestions. They did everything I told them. They listened. They weren't trying to be like, well, you know what? I went through medical school. I know more about this than you and all that stuff. So, and they were very respectful. They admit that, it was like, we'll listen what you said and we'll do as you say and all that stuff. Because since you've been doing this for a long time, you know what you're doing and stuff like that. And we trust you. So they were really nice about it. And then, it's just that they really didn't know much.
Yeah. Yeah. What does your personal team look like, right? With your own docs, who do you count on for advice given your experience?
Well, I do have my doctor naturopath, and she's amazing. I mean, she takes a lot of my suggestions and we talk about everything, and we talk about prevention, like what to do to prevent, not really about the medication, you need this for this and that, stuff like that. And the stuff that they give me is, the things that I really need and very small doses and nothing more, it's just, and they're really good about it. So they're looking at not just my lab results, but they're looking at my lifestyle. And they're basing everything based on my lifestyle, not the lab results. Because you can still have everything great lab results, but not have a great lifestyle, nutrition's bad and all that stuff, and you're prone to getting all these other diseases later in life. So she's amazing. And so I go to her all the time. And then I remember when I made that switch, and it was about my, because I take testosterone, right? Because my testosterone was very low. It was almost below the minimum of what it's supposed to be, right? So my primary doctor saw that I was taking testosterone that naturopath prescribed, and he kind of pretty much freaked out. It's like, you shouldn't be taking this. It's very dangerous, and you can have blood clots and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not really what she said, and it's not really true, because I'm like, if you look at my blood results, everything improved.
They're fine.
Everything improved.
Yeah.
Even the function of my liver and kidneys and everything. It's just, and then I asked him, like, so what would it take for you to prescribe the testosterone? And he told me that I would have to test below minimum 2 times in a row, twice.
And that's over what period? So you'd have to exist in this space for what, over 6 months?
Yeah. And it's just like I would have to test twice below minimum, which is really hard. And the naturopath also showed me this paper, and it's from the hospital that they get. It shows how every year they kind of lower that minimum more and more down. They're lowering so less people would actually test below minimum. And I saw it. He showed me, like, I can complete, you can see it. They're lowering that testosterone level more and more. So you're not going to, and if you don't test below minimum, they're like, well, you're in the range where you're supposed to be. You're fine. You don't need that because it's very expensive. Insurance covers everything, pays for everything. So they don't want to prescribe that. So there's another whole story behind that, right? But my naturopath does that, and I'll do like every 3 months to 6 months, and I don't have to do 3 months. I just do it because I know it's good for you. I go donate blood, because with the testosterone, your number of the red blood cells increases. That's why the other doctor says it might come to blood clots, all that stuff, but it's not that extreme. But I go and I donate blood every 3 months or sometimes 6 months if I don't have time. And everything's in check. I do my blood test once a year, maybe twice a year. Everything looks great. Never better. I've never been healthier.
Yeah. I had an experience some years ago now. My dad had a heart attack, and I went down to the hospital where he was, and he needed a serious bypass, right? A quintuple bypass that they couldn't actually complete. But when the doctor came out, the cardiologist came out, that's the first time a doctor looked at me as his son and said, as his son, you need to start lifting heavy things, right? You need to start doing this, because he didn't do enough of it. He would get on the cross-country machine, and he would do the bike, but he pretty much stopped lifting in the back half of his life. And the doctor came out and said to me that you need to lift, and we're going to get him lifting and getting stronger after his chest was cracked open, right? It is fascinating to me that cardiology gets that right when my primary care physician never did. And I find that gap something worth interrogating a little bit. There's a wonderful podcast that I'll put in the show notes called Sawbones, a marital tour of misguided medicine. And it's actually a medical history podcast where a physician named Sydney McElroy actually goes through and sort of dissects medical myths. And she is a physician at a teaching hospital, and her husband is a comedian. And so the two of them, they talk about medical things, and then he makes jokes. It's an entertaining show, Sawbones. But one of the things that she pushes again and again is how this is not your physician who's failing you. It's the system who's already failed them, right? She said, I have 8 minutes to talk to you in the lab. I have 8 minutes, or else I'm getting dinged and I'm not meeting my patient quota. So the incentive has nothing to do with directly with their lack of training or lack of experience or lack of awareness. All they can do is look at what they have in front of them and make snap decisions and move on to the next person. And that's kind of the horror show. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because the degree to which you have a successful relationship with your physician is, at this point, where we are in our economy, in our culture, in the United States in particular, is the degree to which you're willing to do your own research and find alternative sources of smart information, which is, unfortunately, becoming harder and harder to come by. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I actually recently switched to a new physician who is a naturopath, and one of the standout sort of experiences was my first conversation with her was an hour. She gave me an hour and listened to my whole life and based her assessments on the trends that I was showing her, not the last set of blood work. That comes next. But and it's the first time I walked into a doctor and had her say, you know what, I think we can start winding you down off of these medications that you're on. Yeah. That's an extraordinary sort of mental shift. So And also it's at a women's health clinic that they've just decided to start taking men, and it's awesome.
Yes.
They are so nice and so warm and so kind. So, find a good women's health clinic. It's great.
Yeah, my doctor is a woman. She's very young. She's very knowledgeable. I mean, we talk every time for at least 20 minutes. It's never been under 20 minutes. And we talk about everything. And she always asks if I have any questions, suggestions, and I can ask her anything, really. And, she doesn't seem like she's in a hurry, and she's like trying to, just get it done and get me out. It's amazing.
Let's transition to the muscle part, right? Like one of the things that I was reading is that there are certain tests of strength that are indicators that are really good indicators of overall health. What is your perspective on stuff like grip strength? When you hear somebody talk to you about grip strength, is that a old wives' tale?
No, it's actually it's proven. Like when it comes to like longevity, that the goal isn't just building muscle. It's good if you have a good muscle mass, but it's maintaining the strength, the power, and the ability to move well, throughout life. So the grip strength, leg strength, and also, I don't know, a lot of people haven't heard about walking speed. So
yeah, I don't know
preserving
anything
the
about
muscle
that. I think
mass.
I'm a slow walker.
Yeah, those are most powerful, physical indicators we have of, healthy aging and long-term like survival. So one of the strongest predictor is a grip strength. A simple hand grip dynamometer test has been shown in like numerous studies to correlate with overall health, future disability, cardiovascular disease risks, and the lifespan. I mean, they've shown that people with low grip strength tend to have a high risk of chronic diseases, hospitalization, like premature death. And that's because the grip strength is often considered a snapshot of total body strength and overall just physical resilience. It's amazing. But then also another one is measurement is leg strength, particularly the strength of your quads, the quadriceps, and the lower body muscles. Yeah. And the legs contains some of the largest muscles in the body and are essential for mobility, balance, and just independence. So there's a lot of research that shown that individuals who maintain that strong leg muscles as they age are less likely to experience any falls or fractures, disability, or any loss of independence. So
wow,
yeah, and then also researchers look at the muscle mass itself, of course, especially the amount of skeletal muscle a person carries around. The lower muscle mass, a condition known as a sarcopenia. It's also associated with the increased risk of diseases. So muscle mass alone is not as powerful as a predictor of the strength, but it's also very important, to have that muscle mass. It's just that if you have the muscle mass, you got to have, so there's some people that have a little less muscle mass, but they have the strength, which is very important, and then the walking speed. It's got kind of funny that I know a lot of people don't hear about walking speed, but
I don't think about it at all. And I just realized, like, of course it is walking. You're using all of the biggest muscles to walk and stay upright.
It reflects the combination of muscle strength, cardiovascular fitness, balance, coordination, and nervous system function. So
and flexibility, right? Stride distance, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Oh man. This is one of those things I feel like is going to haunt me for the rest of the week. Like I'm going to be overthinking my stride.
You're going to start walking really fast now.
Yeah, I'm going to start walking really fast. So, and I want to make sure we say grip strength in the hand and walking speed they're not, like you should not probably go out and just buy a gripper, like a grip exerciser. Because it's not, just having super strong hands is not what we're talking about. It is an indicator of your overall state of strength and fitness. Okay. That's because I would just Amazon the hell out of a gripper and I would just work my hands. I have giant hands.
Well, you worked on the strength of your legs too. You got to be able to walk and go up the stairs and down the stairs, be able to, sit down and get up without help.
Yeah. That's what my son works in elder care, and he says to me, the saddest thing you've ever seen is when somebody rings that bell because they're overall healthy, but they can't stand up off the toilet. It is the saddest thing. It is the thing that will make you work your squats.
Yes,
every day. Yeah. What is one muscle movement that you would just sort of bolt into a standard physical you think would change perspectives if people started measuring just one basic strength exercise?
Well, quads, legs. Definitely quads. Start squatting.
Yeah.
Even if it's every day. If you sit for too long, depending what you do for work, stuff like that, get up, do some squats, make sure that those muscles are activated, don't lose that strength. It's going to make everything more difficult. I definitely like strength. I know a lot of people take medications for the things that they might actually not really need the medication. They're just changing the lifestyle, can change because, we live in a healthcare system that often treats, the symptoms of lifestyle-related diseases rather than the causes.
Yes,
high blood pressure gets a blood pressure pill. High cholesterol gets a statin. Type 2 diabetes gets another prescription. But what often gets overlooked is that same person may also need better nutrition, more muscle, more movement. Better sleep, less body fat, less stress. So this prescription pack can kind of lower the number, but lifestyle changes. The lifestyle change can often improve the underlying condition that creates that number in the first place. So I know my father had high cholesterol and blood pressure and all that stuff. So they prescribed him all this medication and I had him stopped. I didn't want him to take any of those medications. So I controlled his lifestyle. Pretty much how often he moved and, how he ate, the nutrition, all that stuff. Went through the whole fridge, make sure that he had, healthy brands, organic food and stuff like that. And to control over that, next time he went to see a doctor, all the numbers looked perfect. They thought that he was taking his medication. They asked if he needs refills. And he was like, no, actually, I've never actually taken any of those. I don't need them. And they kind of looked at him. And they looked at me, and I'm like, because I went to translate for him. He doesn't really speak English. So I went to translate. I'm like, I didn't let him take any of those. And they were looking at me. So I'm like, he's not going to take any of that. I won't let him. I'm like, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So, it's just, even type 2 diabetes. You can, a lot of that stuff.
Wow.
I mean, studies.
It's what you put in, right?
Studies have shown.
I know next to nothing about type 2 diabetes apart from it's a sugar thing.
Yes.
And if you manage your diet and your fitness, you can all but stave it off.
Yeah, the type 2 diabetes is often driven by excess body fat, insulin resistance, low physical activity, poor nutrition, loss of muscle mass. And there are studies that have shown that the significant weight loss and increase the physical activity, resistance training, and dietary changes can lead to remission in many individuals. This means that blood sugar levels can return to a non-diabetic range without medication. While you maintain the healthy habits. It's just I'm usually not okay with that. So I try to do it this way before, you even think about taking any medications, because all the medications, they have their own side effects. This doesn't. Healthy lifestyle does not have side effects.
Other than positive ones.
Exactly. There's no negative side effects to me.
That's one of the reasons that I've been told, because the pill that I'm on was a blood pressure pill, and they are reducing my dosage because, and man, I used to all the time feel my heartbeat in my head. Like even at rest, I was just overamped, and I'm just not anymore. And it's been over a year we've been doing this, and I feel like that change is more valuable than any drug that I could ever have been on.
Mm.
It's extraordinary. So I think the overall message here is, like I for a long time carried around this sort of badge, like if it mattered, my doctor would have told me. And I feel like where we are right now, I've been disabused of that. Absence of advice is not absence of importance. And it is more important than ever to be able to do your research and to find sources that are reliable sources of primary research and take control of your health.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone, whenever you go to the doctor, ask questions. Ask as many questions. Don't just go along with what they say. I mean, ask whatever you're dealing with. It's like, how can I prevent this? Not just fix it right now. Prevent from happening again. Like, okay, if I start taking this, like, what can I do? What do I need to change? Do better so this doesn't get worse, or maybe that I could get off these medications at one point. I don't want to just, go and schedule another follow-up so I can get a refill on this medication. So challenge the doctors, ask them questions, as many as you can. I do it all the time. And some of them, they appreciate it, but some of them don't like me because of that. But it's my health, it's your health. So you have that right.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. I think you kept a lid on it pretty well, man.
Yeah.
I think you did all right. I didn't see the rage monster come out. I think we did fine. This is a great conversation and an ongoing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've got questions about training or recovery or how to make strength work in your life, we want to hear them. Head to the show notes, use the link in the show notes, and send your questions to the trainers. Don't forget to subscribe and share. This is how we grow stronger together. It's summer. We've got vacations coming up, so we're going to be away from the mic for a couple weeks, and we ask you to stay subscribed, hang out, and we'll be back in the middle of July or so with new episodes. And when that happens, we will see you in the gym.